Welcome back to Breakfast Central Friday morning. Now, the federal government has charged former Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele with obtaining $6.23 million by false pretense. In the amended charge dated January 17th and filed for the Attorney General of the Federation, AGF, Rotimi Oyedepo, SAN, Emefiele is now accused of criminal breach of trust, forgery, conspiracy to obtain by false pretense, and obtaining money by false pretense.
He is accused of conspiring with one Odo Eric Ocheme, who is now at large, to obtain $6.23 million in the name of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. The prosecution said he awarded multi-million-naira contracts to a company in which his wife, Omoile Margaret, and brother-in-law, Omoile Mokombo, are directors and major shareholders.
He's also accused of forging a document on the presidential directive on foreign election observer missions dated January 26, 2023, which Emefiele allegedly claimed emanated from the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Obtaining by false pretense is one of the counts in the 14 charges added to the 6 counts earlier filed against the former Apex Bank boss, who was arraigned on November 17, 2023, for allegedly using a position to confer corrupt advantage on staff member Sadatu Ramlan Yaru. And of course, the travails and, the issues surrounding the former CBN governor, continue. It first of all started with a charge of illegal arms possession or something like that, for, people described it as a Dane gun. But of course, it has developed into
just feels like they were looking for something
charges
to pin him down. They weren't quite sure what to pin him down with at
initially,
first.
right.
Yes, and now it's like, oh, they had him in custody and then they've gone to comb through him, going to comb through his records, and now they're fine, which is not surprising. They will certainly find things, that they can use to pin him down.
I mean, it's not. Well, it's not. There's no certainty.
Well,
if he has
a
questions that
record.
he needs to answer, then of course it's fine.
How many of them really have clean records?
Not very many. But the thing is, it's interesting to see this play out. And I'm sure that Nigerians are eager to see the end of these investigations and these court cases. If he will be found guilty, of all these allegations or not. His legal team has a lot of work that they will need to do, obviously. And I'm hoping that they can also, spot the loopholes in the processes with the CBN that made it possible for him to do these things if, he actually did, if, they are true. There are many loopholes, and I've also said it before that it's never a one-man show when these funds, are being talked about. We're talking about $6 million, 30 billion, whatever amount. It's never a one-man show.
Single-handedly move everything.
Yeah, exactly. There's other people that are always connected, to these things. And I'm hoping that they're able to have a very, very, expansive investigation. There's also other people that, have been named like this in previous administrations that the investigations didn't go anywhere. We've also seen people in the previous administration, for example, Ibrahim Magu and the likes, that were accused of similar, things. Billions and billions of naira. The Accountant General was accused of, I think, 109 billion naira fraud. None of that went anywhere. And so, as much as Nigerians are eager to see where this leads, there's also people who say, well, as always, we don't expect anything out of it. It's maybe just a media trial and, to embarrass, the former CBN governor. But we'll see, and we wish the investigators the best and wish Emefiele the best also, however this turns out.
All right. We're still going to be having conversations about corruption, and it appears that the current leadership of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, led by Ola Olukoyede, is indeed committed to prosecuting the war against corruption without fear or favor. And to demonstrate its commitment in this regard, the anti-graft agency hinted at its resolve to restart the stalled multi-billion-naira corruption cases against some former governors after long years of unexplained hiatus. Although money is huge enough to provide water, build classrooms, build health centers, construct roads, provide electricity, and other basic necessities for most of the rural communities in need, have been allegedly mismanaged by some of these governors. Their prosecution has either been stalled by political consideration or needless technicalities by the courts.
Now, but it seems the EFCC, well, in 2024, is now poised to go after the looters and ultimately recover the looted billions from former governors Abdullahi Adamu of Nasarawa State, Aliyu Wamako of Sokoto State, Ayo Fayose of Ekiti State, Amin Pains, if you remember him, Chimaroke Namani of Enugu State, Danjuma Goje of Gombe State, Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State, Peter Odili of Rivers State, Rabiu Musa Kwankwase of Kano State, Sullivan Chime, well, I mentioned that of Enugu State, Sule Lamidi of Jigawa State, Theodore Orji of Abia State, Timi Presiva of Bayelsa, Uzor Kalu of Abia, and the current Minister of State for Defense, Mohamed Bello Matawale, who is alleged to have stolen 70 billion naira from funds that accrue to Zamfara State when he held sway as governor for 4 years. Now, joining us this morning to discuss this further is political analyst Opunabo Inko-Taria. Good morning, and thanks for joining us, Mr. Inko-Taria.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Godwin.
Great to have you on the program. And Happy New Year. It's the first time we're seeing you this year. Interesting story, from the EFCC. A couple of these names, we've either not heard since they left office in 2003, or, of course, maybe somehow, some way still in government. There's people who say that this is really just, once again, political gimmicks being done by the EFCC and by the current administration. Do you agree with that narrative, or do you think that, yes, it is time that the EFCC, wakes up and goes after these people that have been accused?
Yes, I completely agree. You will agree with me that, like Martin Luther King said, corruption is one virulent disease making society. And until we get this person general character, until we get them to account for every problem, corruption will continue to thrive. And that is why we are in the situation we find ourselves today in this country. Unfortunately, we are in a country where even the judiciary is complicit in terms of this corruption.
All right. Mr. Inko-Taria, kindly, we're going to have to, pause you there. We'll take a very short break. When we come back, we continue. Of course, just hold your thought right there. We'll continue.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still looking at the ongoing investigation of the EFCC of the ex-governors by the EFCC. We have political analyst Opunabo Inko-Taria. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. But is it better now?
Lovely. Thank you. So I think the first conversation would be what your thoughts are regarding the EFCC's ability to actually investigate these people, these names that, like Osage said, we haven't heard of some of them in a very long time. Do you foresee that this is just one of those new, what Nigerians call initial gra-gra, or are we going to actually see a proper investigation being conducted and, more importantly, being concluded?
It is my earnest hope that under the present EFCC chairman, spring will be reborn. We just hope that it will not be like one of those investigations that will be swept under the carpet, depending on your political inclination. Like I was saying, as I was saying before we had that glitch, even the court rather is even complicit, not the Supreme Court, the courts generally. Like in the case of the former governor of Rivers State, it is quite unfathomable that a court will grant perpetual injunction restraining anybody, the anti-graft agencies, from investigating a governor. I just couldn't comprehend it. And I can't also understand why that injunction has not been vacated by the EFCC. So even the EFCC is equally complicit. My take is that most of these former governors go and compromise these EFCC officials. And most times, when they have been compromised, they forget the consigned into oblivion most of those cases. And that is why we still have the corruption thriving. We have the issue of even the issue of Gandhi. We all saw it went viral. And after a while, we all forgot about it, where he was putting dollars into his agbada and so on. Even though some are saying it was photoshopping or whatever they call it, let us investigate and let us have the results. But we just pray that this present EFCC chairman, especially when you consider this Beta Edu's saga, we pray that this EFCC chairman, his investigation will not be paraplegic. It will not be a situation where you raise the hopes of Nigerians and after a while it is being dashed, or just want to play to the gallery to impress Nigerians that you're doing something. And don't also forget that the president has a major role here to play, because the EFCC chairman is appointed by the president and confirmed by the National Assembly. And for removal, we agree that you need the consent of the National Assembly, no doubt about that. But if the Mr. President is quite serious, they are calling for the return of better do. No, I'm not saying she should be completely dismissed, but that should be planned based on investigation. If she's been investigated and is found innocent, she can, of course, be recalled, no doubt about that. But until we get the outcome of that investigation, she cannot be recalled. And so we call on Mr. Tinubu to ensure that irrespective of your party affiliation, because you remember what Oshomole said, he said, if you cross over to EFCC, your sins are forgiven. And I can tell you that there is hardly a governor, I'm yet to see one, a governor that is not stained, that is not venal. Because if you look at the lifestyles of most of these governors, some of them are still serving. If you look at the lifestyles of most of these governors, you begin to wonder how they got the money. No matter what they call what is it called again, security votes and code they have. The kind of drinks, the kind of clothes, you begin to wonder, and most of them had nothing to do before they became governors. So where did they get that money from? So it is even over. Prima facie, you can even establish that these persons are corrupt. But until investigations are carried out because of our adversarial system of legal system, until investigations are carried out, you're presumed innocent. No doubt about that. So the onus is now on the EFCC chairman to do a proper investigation, not minding whose ox is God, and to ensure that all those that are found guilty are brought to book. And we call on Mr. President not to intervene at all whatsoever. He should not intervene. Because in most cases, what we see is that the presidents will call them to say, this man is not a member of our party. I'll use a very good example why I'm saying I call on Mr. President. Let us look at the River State crisis, for example. We had 27 lawmakers defected to the APC. And what happened when they met Mr. President? He said, are you going to throw the babies away if the babies are born into your family? That is not what we are talking about. They can defect. But the law says, and it was a Supreme Court judgment, the moment you defect and there is no crisis in your party, you've lost your seat. They did not say you have to be prosecuted. They said the moment, that is the law, once you defect, so the moment you announce that you defected, you lost that seat. So it's left INEC to call for, what is it called? Is it a runoff election or run? I've forgotten whatever term to be used. But that is what we are talking about. But if Mr. President has said, no, this is the law, so you have lost your seat, then we would have known, and others will now take lessons from that. So the same thing applies to the EFCC cases. We don't expect Mr. President to intervene whatsoever at all. So that this government, why would you run to court if your hands are clean? Why would you run to court to prevent the court from investigating the state? If the money is not your own, so why run to court? If your hands are clean, you really have to say, okay, investigate, because at the end of the day, if you're not found guilty, then the whole world will praise you. To say, yes, this man came out clean. He served as a governor for 4 or 8 years, and his records are clean.
Yeah, Mr. Nkotare,
which means you're already guilty, and you're admitting that guilt.
Yeah,
That's why
I want us to look.
All your guilt will be exposed. So I call on the EFCC to ensure, not that that's why I say shouldn't be paraplegic, to ensure that this is followed to the letter. We see prosecution, and where they are found guilty, we see persecution.
Yeah, well, I want us to also look at the part where. Kindly hold on, Mr. Nkotare. Kindly hold on, Mr. Nkotare. I don't know if you can hear us clearly, but kindly hold on.
And please, let me state this. We don't want endless investigation. We are still investigating, we don't want to hear such things.
Mr. Nkotare, can you hear us clearly?
Before you accuse them, you must have gotten your facts ready. Before you're accusing them. And these are persons that left the office long ago. So before you must have gotten your facts ready. So don't tell me you're still investigating, you're still doing this, and you're still doing that. And if that is done, I'm telling you that the EFCC chairman would have written his name in gold.
All right, Opunabo Nkotare, can you hear us at all?
Mr. Nkotare, can you hear us?
Can you hear us at all?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I want us to look, at some of the names that have been mentioned. Of course, we're aware that a few of them have previously been investigated, and either found not guilty, of course, or maybe had some legal gymnastics, to toss out those cases. Sullivan Chime, of course, has been investigated before. Theodore Orji, I believe, has been investigated. Uzor Kalu has been investigated. We currently have Bello Matawalle, who's currently the Minister of State for Defense, also on that list. It's a very interesting list of people that have been looked at. So I want you to share your thoughts. Of course, Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State, Ayo Fayose also has been investigated in the past. So I want your thoughts on why you think it's going to be different now. The same EFCC investigated them before and, couldn't find them guilty of anything, or at least couldn't jail them. So why do you have any faith that it's maybe going to be different now? Where's your faith in the new EFCC chairman coming from, or in the new administration coming from?
Okay. First and foremost, in the case of Theo George, for example, we all know that his release was political, based on technicality. They did not say he was innocent of the crime. It was strictly based on technicality. And that is what we have to expunge when it comes to issues like this from our criminal procedures. Because in most cases, the innocent, the guilty ones are set free, even when the court is seized of the fact that they are guilty. So you cannot say that Theodoji was not found guilty. No, his own was based on technical grounds, technicality. Then now, in the case of these other ones that were investigated, and it is assumed that they found nothing, I have my doubts. Because if actually there was no stain, I don't see why the EFCC will want to reinvestigate them, reopen their files. So if you ask me, I will tell you that the previous investigations were compromised. And probably there is something new or something there that was not exposed by the former EFCC boss or the former investigators that this present EFCC chairman would have seen and believes that it is worthy enough to end a conviction. That is my thinking. Otherwise, if in actual fact they were investigated, don't forget that sometimes they arrest you, say they want to investigate you, and two things happen. One is either, like Osomole said, once you move to the APC, your sins are forgiven. You see that? You move to APC and the president intervenes, or the EFCC chairman will tell you you're being investigated so that you go and federal line his own pocket. You give him money. And once you give him money, they say, oh, we found nothing. Just like most of the IGs do. The first thing they do is to withdraw security men, policemen from top politicians. And the next thing you see, give him 1 week, you see the same politicians having more policemen, security guards. You ask yourself, what has happened? And IG will say, we don't want roadblocks. But give yourself after 1 week, you still see the roadblocks. And in that very state, you find commissioners and DPOs. Are you going to say the IG is not aware? Or are you going to say the DPOs and the commissioners are disobeying the IG? They know what they are doing. When they come up with all these laws, is to make money, generate money immediately for themselves. So definitely this new EFCC, that's what I'm saying. We just don't want to hear that they are being investigated. Commence prosecution. Let us see the facts. Let us see the charges. And let the courts free them. So let this man not say, let us not say because they were previously investigated and nothing was found, therefore they are innocent. Okay, presume innocent in the eyes of the law. No doubt about that, until the court convicts them. But definitely this man must have said something new that must have prompted this investigation. So let him go ahead and investigate. I believe there is something new that is unknown to the public that the man must have seen. So let him go ahead and commence this prosecution. Let the Supreme Court tell us that all the charges, all the allegations against them were frivolous. Then we now rest, no problem. Because it will be in the full glare, publicly. We will now rest. Even if they are guilty and the Supreme Court says they are free, of course, don't be convicted, don't be jailed. No problem. We will now rest.
All right.
Just like some certain president in the National Assembly today that we have never voted for, but Court of Appeal said, okay, yes, that they ought to be in the National Assembly, going against Supreme Court judgment, what the court said, the CCC law, and they are there. Let us see, no problem.
Okay, Mr. Inkocharia, having looked at the list of people who have unfortunately, I don't know if it's unfortunate at this point, I'm just going to run through them as quickly as possible. Matawale being investigated for alleged 70 billion naira money laundering, with contractors reportedly making startling revelations about returning funds to him. We have Fayemi, who's probed for an alleged 4 billion fraud as a Minister of Solid Minerals Development. We have Fayose under investigation for an alleged 6.9 billion naira fraud during his governorship. Nnamani accused of an alleged 5.3 billion naira fraud. We also have Sullivan Chime, investigated for an alleged 450 million naira campaign fraud linked to the former oil minister Diezani Alison Madueke. And we have RG probed for alleged 551 billion naira money laundering. I think finally I'll stop with Diezani, subject to multiple investigations into multi-billion naira and multi-million dollar money laundering allegations. So having looked at this list, is there anyone who you think should have been on this list that hasn't been mentioned, or anyone who you think is there but should not have been there?
A lot of them. I must be honest with you. Some that are even serving.
Can you mention names?
To be on that list. Well, you know, Olive, you're a lawyer. So you know when you accuse somebody, the burden is also on you to prove. Yes, but you also don't forget that perception is key. You know, so I will not want to mention, but like I said, some are even serving. Some just finished serving and went to contest for governorship in their various states. And even the monies they were giving to renovate refineries and co, they could not even account for them. Some are still serving right now under the present administration.
Yeah.
So use your tongue to count the teeth.
Yeah, the way that the system is set, you know, and the way that the structures are in different states across the country, is there, you know, the possibility, really, that there has been any governor since 1999 that doesn't have actual questions to answer with regards to mismanagement of funds? Is there really that possibility?
Yes, like I said, it is difficult, but of course there are exceptions. There are some persons that, will I say, some, especially in the north, some of them are dead. They died not owning houses. Some owned about 2-3 bedroom flats. You can imagine the governor owning only about 3-bedroom flats, just like the former president Shehu Shagari, who was living in what could be compared to a boys' quarters.
No, I mean, I'm referring to the set of, I'm referring to since 1999.
That's what 1999, not 79.
Today,
oh,
yeah.
Sorry. I misunderstood. Okay, it's not 79. 1999? I can't think of anyone. I'm very honest with you.
And does that include the Labour Party candidate, Peter Obi?
I can't think of anyone. Sorry?
Does that include Peter Obi, the Labour Party candidate?
Let's not forget those public rhetorics and all those stuff. Let us forget that. Peter Obi himself, that is claiming to be a saint. What happened to the local government elections for 8 years? We had elections conducted. If they ask Peter Obi to do, you know, in the country of the blind, the one-eyed man is a king. And so in the midst of his fellow governors, you can say Peter Obi is not corrupt. But if they beam the searchlight of Peter Obi, he cannot completely exonerate himself. Yes, he was rich before he got into government, no doubt about that. But he cannot, from the feelers I got, especially during the last presidential elections, he cannot completely exonerate himself.
Yeah,
but in the country of the blind, the one-eyed man is the king. That's all.
The conversation on local government elections, you know, that's not necessarily corruption. We're talking about mismanagement of funds. We're talking about governors mismanaging.
It's also corruption, but let's not go into that.
Yeah, but what I'm referring to.
Constitutional provision. So, but let's not go into that. Let's not go into that. Because why are you electing caretaker committee chairman?
No, understand what I'm saying here. In the context of what we're talking about, Mr. Nkotaria.
The pillars are the things I heard during the presidential election.
Yeah, well.
I will not come on air to say it because you have to validly prove.
Yeah.
But from what I gather, I will not come on air to say. And that's why I say in the country of the blind, a one-eyed man is a king.
Yeah. What I'm talking about here is, you know, in the context of... Can you hold on, Mr. Nkotaria? Can you hold on?
One-eyed man.
Okay. In the context of what we're talking about here, with mismanagement of billions of naira, according to the report, it's more than 700 billion naira. You know, that's why I said that, you know, local government elections, or, you know, the failure to have local government elections is not necessarily the same thing in this context, you know, so it might be wrong and it's a different conversation. Again, we see some of these people, and there are people who insinuate that some of these names that have been mentioned are simply maybe people who weren't closest friends with the current president in the set of 1999, because you've seen, you know, a couple of names there. Sullivan Chime, for example. Okay, well, it was 1999. Chimaroke Namani, I beg your pardon, and the River State governor back then, I'm skipping his name now.
Peter Odili.
Peter Odili, yes. So there's insinuations, you know, that, you know, the current president might also be pulling strings here. You know, do you make sense out of any of that?
Yes. I completely agree. And that's why I said, let Mr. President allow the investigations to go on. Because even in his cabinet, there are some former governors that are corrupt. So why are they not investigated and mentioned? They are corrupt, even in this cabinet. There are some of the governors are corrupt. Some of the governors in whose states there are crises, the problem of their crisis is corruption. Corruption. So what are we talking about? That's why I'm saying Mr. President should not interfere. Let him not. Because Osomole himself has said it, and nobody has come out to contradict it. No APC man. Osomole has said it, that your sins will be forgiven if you move on to your APC. So if you like the likes of Peter, he has come out to say that I am being haunted now simply because I refuse to sign this 8-point agreement. He has come out to say it. So he's been haunted.
So it's possible that this is targeting.
I'm not saying that means he's innocent too. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's innocent. No. But the point I'm making is, in the administration of justice, you don't cherry pick. So if you're going after corrupt former venal governors, you go after them. In fact, I don't even understand why they're investigating years after. That's why at times I just pray that this will not be one paraplegic investigation. Years after. Look, while a governor is in office, the EFCC, the anti-graft, should start their investigation from day one. And you can't arrest them because they have immunity. Once they get out of it, you pick them up even from the swimming ground.
Inkotaria.
In the background, you pick them up.
Let's move away from the government.
They don't do that.
Let's move away. We're running out of time. We have a few.
Most of them jump from one political party to the other for protection. Once they get a new president, they move to that party for protection. Or they want to align themselves with any new president because they know they are corrupt.
All right, Inkotaria, let's move away from the ex-governors and very quickly talk about the chairman of the EFCC, Olukoyede. Do you have worries and concerns? Because if you've noticed over time, that position is a very sensitive position, and it does seem that every other day we're hearing news about the chairman of the EFCC being implicated in some controversy or scandal or the other, from Abdulrasheed Bawa to the one before him. So do you think that Ibrahim Magu, do you think that this is something that we should be, I mean, do you have worries that we might hear something in the nearest future about him?
Yes, I have worries. Because if the man decides to be a man of rectitude, decides to be upright, and if Mr. President is not comfortable with that position, he will have problems. I'm not bothered about the vice president. I'm not bothered about ministers, are not bad, because the buck stops at the table of Mr. President. So if Mr. President is not comfortable with it, of course the man have. Look at Magu. About 5 times the Senate rejected Magu. DSS even wrote a report against Magu. The president appointed him in acting capacity. Eventually he was indicted. At the end of the order move, they set up a panel, it was swept under the carpet. Eventually he was promoted to AIG. That's the country we live in. Now, this present EFCC man, the moment he goes contrary to the directives of Mr. President, he's bound to run into trouble. And so everything depends on Mr. President. But if Mr. President tells this man, look, my friend, I will not interfere. go ahead and do your job. He's going to do his job. Like these names he exposed, he's signposted now. If Mr. President had said, I don't want you to investigate them, of course he would have mentioned them.
Yeah.
Or if Mr. President has any favored person there, Mr. President, why didn't you clear with me first?
Yeah.
You just embarrass this man. Okay, make sure that as you go back, you set him free. That's why you find out that most of them are free.
Yeah,
most times, most of them
I think
are
it's also
when they collect money, investigations will end. So they are corrupt. And that money they collect is the same money that ropes them in. Well, so it all depends on Mr. President, not ministers, not vice president, because they don't have the power to remove it. Not Senate president, no. Mr. President, once Mr. President is sincere about clearing these institutional impurities, purging the institutions of these impurities and the system, in fact, of such impurities, I am telling you that the man will have the gumption to function and function well.
Yeah, very true. But I think it's also fair to mention, Secretary, I think it's also fair to mention, that as much as, these things might sound like exciting news, the reason that you also see a lot of people not interested, in some of all these, gimmicks, as they will call them, is because, the EFCC doesn't need to announce, that, they are now going to start investigating, certain people. They simply need to go through the books, raise questions, within themselves, create, the proper investigation, and then, of course, approach these people, invite them for questioning.
To actually work.
All these, we're about to start investigating this and that.
I completely agree with you. But you see, in the situation in which we found ourselves, there is a plus. Because we've all lost hope in the EFCC. In fact, in the system. I will not even want to go into certain things. Even certain persons that are now saying they read this nation of corruption, they're not corrupt. So we've lost confidence. Okay. I don't know if you allow me to say it. Okay, don't allow me to say it so that you won't be accused. Why have they not investigated Lagos State? The governorship, all the governors of Lagos State. Let's not go into that. Look, the truth about it is that it will now rekindle hope in Nigerians to say, yes, let us see this EFCC man. Maybe he wants to work to a very large extent. Otherwise, I agree with you. You do these things surreptitiously, and all we want to hear is these persons have been charged to court. But at times too, they do these things to collect money. I told you, just like the IG and so on. So that they'll rush down to the EFCC boss and say, take. Now it depends on the sincere intentions. If the man is doing it sincerely, with intent, good reasons. If that is his focus, fine. If not, it could be another way call, another invitation to say, come, invitation to treat, come and see me. Otherwise, we'll continue, I'll commence this investigation. So it all depends on it. That's why I say you should not prepare. It all depends on him.
All right, Mr. Nkotara.
That these persons are investigated to the letter and prosecuted.
Yeah.
If tomorrow the court frees them, I'm very
sure.
You take the credit.
I'm very sure, residents of that, of these states that have been mentioned, have questions that they would like answered. They, of course, would like to see these investigations carried out, to the letter. They would like to see some people even would love to see some of these former governors jailed.
The impunity will not be more than 8 years. They should also investigate Lagos State.
Oh, well.
No governors.
Openamo Nkotara, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Thank you very much.